Hey, welcome to Frog Hair Farm City Edition. Today we're going to do a cultivating video, and I want to preface that by letting you know that everything I do here is for two reasons. One, for me to learn something, and two, just to experiment, and maybe three, just to play around. All right, so what I'm going to do and what I'm going to explain to you what I'm doing here doesn't necessarily mean that I'm telling you you should do that. In fact, you may not want to do it, or you may do the should more likely do the opposite. But so I'm going to show you two different things we're going to work on today, and then I'm going to show you how I've got the cultivator configured right now, and then we're going to show you how we're going to change it. So let me turn you around here. Okay, first thing we have here is a few rows of sunflowers, and these are, I don't know, 2-ish, 3-ish weeks since planting, and I'd like to get through these and just get this kind of first little flush of weeds out of here for now before they get any bigger. In this case, I don't want to throw a ton of dirt back into the row just due to plant size. Some of these are big enough they can handle it, but some of them are definitely not. So what I've done is set the cultivator up here. Set the cultivator up here with two regular sweeps in the center. Now, before I had two half sweeps, and what I find with the half sweeps is they tend to turn up clods and then throw those in, and we end up covering up plants we don't want to cover up. So I'm going to do an experiment with these regular sweeps in their place. And then the other thing I've done here on the cultivator is replace the two center with a wider sweep, and also the rear one's the same thing. And so the reason I put the wider sweeps in those two positions is I want to get as much coverage in between the rows as possible, and this gives me a ton of overlap with my first shoe here and the second shoe. I got a lot of overlap between those, and then a lot of overlap between the one in the back. So so that just gives me coverage, and part of the reason I'm as interested in that is that in this field I get a fair amount of two vining weeds, morning glory here, and then over in this area over here see if we can find it. I'm sure we can. Just walk down here a little ways. So I've had a ton of bindweed in here. So while it's, in the row here, it's probably gonna be pretty tough for me to do much with that at this point. I can try to cover up as much as I can, but the in-row stuff I can definitely still get. And one of the reasons I want to continually go ahead and cultivate on a more continuous basis is I want to set this bindweed back as far as I can. Now, this has been cultivated twice already. Had I had no cultivation in here, this would be an absolute carpet or bindweed. And so bindweed is probably, certainly one of my least favorite weeds. Part of the problem with it is the more you cut it off, the more little root particles you have. I'll turn you around. The more root particles you have, those root particles can start growing. So it's like you try to kill it and it just makes it go more. My theory on this is if I continuously knock back the greenery on top, I'll have a chance of depleting the carbohydrate reserves in those root particles. There's no question this has already improved substantially through the cultivation I've done. So one of the reasons I planted these short sunflower here, these things that are about at the height they're going to get, I think I can still cultivate these, at least part of them. And the zinnia is that I can get into these things and still do the cultivation without significantly damaging the plants. So now we'll cultivate those little sunflower over there, and then we'll come over here, and what I'll do is remove those first set of sweeps on the cultivator, and then push in that second tier just a little bit. That way I'm not going to be damaging the leaves and so forth on these sunflowers. Get a lot of the coverage I want, and throw in about, hopefully we'll throw in about the right amount of dirt into the row itself. So that's the theory. Now in practice it could be a complete fail, but we'll see. Okay, so the thing that I'm experimenting with now is just finding the right setup for the cultivator in different conditions. And I think a lot of folks think you have a cultivator, you just use the cultivator. I would tell you that you want to configure your cultivator to suit the conditions you have, so that's the attempt here. And like I said, my goal here primarily, if I didn't have the bindweed, I probably wouldn't touch these again. Really not a great need to do that. The other thing is, it has been very dry. There's the soil's really dry right now. In some ways, I question the wisdom of going ahead and cultivating at this point, but there's a pretty high likelihood of rain tonight, so cross your fingers I get some rain and everything will work out just right. So let's get going. Okay, so we've just stuck the cultivator in the ground here, and I just want to show you a few things because we're going to need to do some adjustments before we get started. So you're going to see the front shovels where they're at and what's happening here. You can see that's flowing a bunch of dirt in there, and you can see how far buried they are in the ground, right? The second set of shovels, less deep, and then if we come back here, they're not even in the ground. All right, so I want to bring this front set of shovels up, so I'm not throwing near as much dirt as I am, because if I lift this cultivator up, then the second and third tier shovels won't be in the ground at all. And so let's take a minute and pull those up just a bit. Okay, hey, let's take a look at what we've got going on now. So we're flowing a decent amount of dirt now into the center of the row. Part of the problem here is that this side of the row is higher, so anyhow, I think we're flowing an okay amount of dirt in to the center here. We're not as deep with our front shovels. Our center ones are still not quite as deep as I'd like. Part of that's topography, and our back ones are not in at all still. So and I've got my front shovels about as high as they'll go in those holders. So that's a little bit of a dilemma. But however, our lift rods here can be adjusted, and so we're going to adjust the lift rods and try to get these back sweeps into the ground. Be back with you. So another change of plan. I'm just throwing too much dirt with those front shovels, and they're adjusted out as wide as they can go. So I'm going to remove those front tier of shovels altogether, and then we're going to move this second tier in a bit, and that will let me, and I'm going to raise them just a touch, that'll let me get the rear shovels here in the ground a little bit better as well. And I think that'll throw a little dirt into the center. Right now I'm not super concerned about that as much as, you know, keeping our plants alive. So we're going to pull those front tier, move these in and up, and then we're going to leave the back right where it's at. And I'll show you what the result is. All right, so with this setup, here's what's going on. So our back sweeps are in the ground, just like we want them. Our front sweeps are in the ground just about the same amount, so that's about right. I raised those about an inch, maybe a little better, inch and a quarter. And then I moved them in. What we're not doing right now is we're not throwing any dirt at all into the center. And so, which is fine right now. There's not, we don't have much going on there, and we might as well let these plants get a little bigger, and then we can throw in some dirt in the center. But we will take out what's growing out between the rows right now. And again, some of that bindweed does extend into here. You can see some right over here. And I want to try to knock that back as much as I can, just to reduce the population as best I can in this year. So I think we're going to run with this setup. I'm pretty happy with it. And then I'll go ahead and finish these rows and we'll talk about it after that. So I made a decision to go ahead and make one last adjustment and move these center shovels in just a little bit further, well, all the way in for that matter. And then we're just going to finish this out and I'll show you the result. All right, so here's the finished result. You know, the stand of sunflower is not the greatest. I've got, you know, some gaps here for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. You can kind of see how it's going there. I'm probably going to need to come in here with the hoe and thin some of these out anyway. There's a little more population, I think, than it's going to make sense. But it accomplished what I wanted to do this time. So you can see there's some grass down toward the end there that's in the row. Once these get another 2-3 inches tall, we'll put those front shovels back on, and then we'll throw some dirt into the center of the row at that time. For this time, though, definitely took out a lot of the weeds that was growing between rows, and yeah, I just kind of want to keep this as clean as I possibly can, so I figured it's worth that. You can see there is still a bit of moisture down there. That's good news. The popcorn really doesn't look bad yet, so you know, that stand, I think, you know, I was anxious. I got in, I planted that really early. I would have been well served by turning that back up and replanting it a couple weeks later, honestly. But hey, yeah, that's what this is all about. I learn from all these experiments and trials. Knowing what I know today, I would have replanted this 2 weeks later, and we would have had a nicer stand. It would look just as good. So anyway, let's go cultivate the bigger stuff up here. All right, so it's always worth stopping to see what you're doing. So I don't think we could get well, they're still short enough that it's doing fine. I wouldn't want it to be a ton taller, but it's doing fine. We're set wide enough here that we're not going to get into the roots or really tear up, you know, leaves or anything like that. I think we're looking pretty good, but you know what I'm looking to get rid of is this bindweed here in the center as much as I can. So that's the only reason I'm going to cultivate this stuff, is to kind of try to control the bindweed as much as possible. So we're going to rip through this. I'm not sure I'll do the zinnia. We'll see. We'll test it. But I'll definitely do these sunflower rows here in the front. Well, okay, we've got it's a mission accomplished. So you know, it's throwing a little bit of dirt into the center, but not very much here. But that's just kind of what I wanted anyway. But we did take out the bindweed that was in between the rows and whatever else, a little bit of grass and stuff that was there too. So we do have that. And the good news is there is moisture still down in there. That's nice to see. So my main goal here is I don't think we did too much damage to the flowers now. We really didn't. A little bit here and there. They'll probably come back. If we had a little more moisture, they'd spring back right away. But I grew these shorter crops in this area, so just for the purpose of being able to go through this more often with the cultivator and try to deplete the energy reserves in that bindweed. You can see here where it's in the row and it's pretty bad. I don't like to see that, but that's tough to get rid of. We'll see what we end up doing there. Maybe we'll take a few of those out. But hey, the zinnias are coming into bloom. Kind of nice to see. Popcorn doing its thing. Tassels are coming out this week, so I'll be curious to see how what kind of crop we get out of this stuff. There's a few ears on some of the stalks forming. So there's one with some silks right there. 2 ears on that one actually. There's a couple more. They're just starting to form. 3 ears on that stalk. So we'll see. I'll be curious to see how it produces. And then of course we casualty of the cultivation. But there's going to be plenty more of them coming along. So these are probably just a little too tall, and since we want flowers out of them, I may just hoe these from now on out instead of cultivating them again. But I figured one more cultivation, what the heck. There's going to be quite a bit of flower production on these for a while, and hey, we just take them home and let the neighbors come pick what they want. So it's not like it's not super critical here. Nothing at Frog Hair Farm is super critical. Let's just say that. The sunflowers are no worse for the wear, but there's getting to be quite a bit of bindweed in between these rows, so I'm happy about that. That's we may even hit these again. We'll see, but I think once we get fully formed flower heads, I'll probably not cultivate after that. And boy, they're right there, huh? It's just starting. We've got one here just forming. Almost all these are ready to form their heads. And you can see some zinnia mixed in between, just because I planted these right after I planted the zinnia. And, well, I cleaned out the seed hopper. Those little zinnia seeds, just some of them hung around. So there's a few in there. Now, let me show you something. You see tall plant and short plants. Okay, these from about here on back, I had a big pile of brush there last winter that I burned, and all the ash and so forth got spread down to about here, and then none in here. So I can only attribute that to a greater degree of fertility in this neighborhood and over in this area. So we'll see. Same here with the popcorn. It's a little bit taller in that area where there was some ash spread. Definitely shorter down at that end where there was nothing put on. So that end of the field too, it gets zapped a lot by those that row of trees. So I need to run the subsoiler back through there, cut some of those roots. Well, anyway, that's the cultivation video. Again, hopefully gives you some idea of this stuff. I'm still going to be adjusting this cultivator. It's, you know, it does okay job. It's an antique. You know, that cultivator until this year probably hasn't been used in at least 50 years, maybe even 60. It's been a long time. Half the time on this old stuff, you're just fighting, you know, rusted nuts and froze up stuff and all that. The good news is I got pretty much all that stuff loosened up at this point. I think once I get past the cultivating season, I may remove it, pull everything apart, and just wire wheel all the threads and really get it so that you can make these adjustments really quickly and you're not fighting anything. I'm to the point really now, but it could be a little easier than it is. So that, and I'll probably pick up a few different shovel types and sizes as well, just to experiment further with that. So you know, I'll turn you around here. You know, the pony, you know, it does a nice job of this. Like I said in an earlier video, I do wish it had one lower gear, or first was lower, but beyond that, honestly, it's a good little cultivating tractor. You know, I think it's your shovel and sweep selection that really is going to determine what happens in your field. I think I'm going to get a couple of smaller ones, little 4-inchers, and put those on this first tier, for instance, and see how that does for me. So, you know, I think there's just some kind of playing around to do with it, and we'll keep experimenting. But hey, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.